Yo, what's up, guys? Cole Behan 412 here, more likely representing 412 Films. You can tell, though, that this is a live Q&A on behalf of 9/11 weekend, because this is my tribute, because before we start the Q&A sessions, I just want to say that I was 5 years old when 9/11 got started, and throughout that time period, I never knew anything about it, but I was living in Illinois throughout that time when 9/11 got started. There were no sports at the time, no basketball, no football, no golf, anything in particular, including baseball. But ever since then, as I got older, I'm right now 25 years old, and I just can't believe that things really got hard during that time period. But I also want to thank the men and women who have did what they could back in 9/11, supporting anyone they can and helping out everybody throughout that time period. But right now, though, anyways, this is the day that we can never forget. Q&A sessions part 1. If anyone has any questions, feel free to leave me a question on the chat. I'll be more than glad to get to your questions. So, anyways, really, that's good to know, Karen. Karen has joined us, Karen Angel 46. But something tells me, though, this Q&A has already gotten pretty good thus far. But anyways, what I do know is that I was 5 years old when that happened, but I've already pointed that out earlier, so please forgive me. But anyways, has anyone have any questions? Because something tells me, though, this is part 1 of the Q&A sessions, and I already know that tomorrow will be part 2, since this is the 9/11 weekend, and this is my tribute to everyone during that time period. But anyways, so basically, I also want to leave an update. If anyone still has any questions for me, feel free to leave me a question on the chat. Because basically, I have a lot to discuss about, because my good friend Gordy Gameplay Reacts, Spider-Man Reacts, has a lot planned out. And coming December 24th is still the Star Wars Redeem of the Force. Coming in Christmas, December 24th. You guys don't want to miss that, because yours truly is coming to the film. But most of all, including Astro Boy, Ash Ketchum, and Sonic the Hedgehog. But most of all, though, for what I do know is that I cannot reveal anyone else coming to the series. It will spoil the surprise. But anyways, does anyone have any questions for me? And oh boy, crickets. Oh, wonderful. Just looking back at the old cartoon days, it's like people just don't know if they want to leave a question. But never mind that now. But anyways, what I do know is that there's also well, the reason how I know that question, Karen, is that I found out about it. Oh my God, Karen! The internet also told me about it, but let's also not forget is that sorry. I just can't get over that joke Karen made, though. But basically, though, the Q&A is still going pretty good thus far. At least I got a bit of a joke out of it. But basically, with 9/11 already still happening on the weekends, because this is the 9/11 weekend, as everyone pays tribute during that time period, knowing it's been like 20 years since it happened. And like I said before, I was around 5 years old when this happened, and I'm right now 25 years old. But my cousin Dakota, on the other hand, was 1 year old when this occurred. He's right now 21. But basically, though, I almost forgot to mention that for this update as well, since this is also Q&A, because I already know that, on the other hand, that TNW Summer of July just got done and all the matches went off with a bang, including the first ever HWF Summer of July Money in the Bank ladder matches from the Diva side to the Superstar side. And I think the winners of those matches went off amazingly. But for what I do know, 6 months old. Never noticed. But basically, though, thus far, it has been going a lot for me as of late. Knowing that the 9/11 was already a hard time for everybody, but there has been no sports at the time, but eventually everyone got by. But for what I do know is that this Q&A has already gotten small, but knowing that Karen Angel 46, formerly known as my good friend Karen, who is just the only one here, but if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to leave me a question on the chat. But like I said, Summer of July went off with a bang, and I know you guys are probably going to be asking yourselves, Cole, when are you going to be getting back to what you do best? And when do you plan to have something out eventually? But, well, I'm taking my week off from wrestling because, man, my vocals really get the best of me at times. But basically, eventually when I get back to it, it's going to be like a week off. And eventually I'll be back to what I do best. And you guys will be seeing TNW King of the Celebrities take place in Tokyo, Japan, where the Olympics took place and where the U.S. won the gold medal. But basically, though, sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm doing the thinker pose from the statue, and well, yep, that's the thinker pose. So it's just it brings back a lot of memories of the movie Night at the Museum 2, the Mistonians. Like we battled the Mistonians, but for what I do know is that 9/11 weekend is still happening, but thus far, though, there has been no questions yet on the Q&A. I was really hoping that there would be questions, but hey, what can you do? But basically, though, is that Q&A has already gotten small, but oh, okay. And so basically, is that so far, though, the Q&A has still gotten off pretty small, but thus far, though, no one hasn't left me a single question yet. If you guys want to share the stream, feel free to share the stream. Or if you guys want to let everyone know what's going on, just feel free to let everyone know of what's happening on the stream. Now then, basically, oh man, this has already gotten hard enough. But basically, though, it's just a matter of time before things eventually change, because knowing that the strategically things have changed a lot over the time period, but only Lord knowing that there has been so much development, not only through 9/11, but including other things like people don't know. But basically, though, I was at SummerSlam last month in August, but things really got disrespectful by one of the workers, where for me it looked like 9/11, but however, this was the pandemic we're still going through, but I'm just praying and hoping that it comes to an end. And yet the guy was the rudest guy in the middle of it. He was just like, put your face mask up, and cover your face and nose. I don't want to die. I was like, yeah, same to you, pal. And basically, the guy was disrespectful, but basically, SummerSlam was a night I will never forget. But, anyways, I just want to be back on point here. But 9/11, however, was one of the most tough times nobody ever forgotten. But when it came time through, speaking of which, of the WWE, back in 2001, when it was still called the WWF, but it's actually the WWE now, when they paid tribute to the hardworking American of men and women, and most of all, ironically, it was, I believe, a message out to the fans that they were taking place in Texas and paying tribute any way they can. And it's their life, their passion, and their lifelong dream. But in America, we are the heart, the soul, and we never give up. Anyways, though, does anyone have any questions for me? Boy, it feels lonely in here. Let's just hope there are no crickets, because it's been awful quiet. No questions. And I'm even stunned enough that there has not been like a single question on the chat thus far. But even knowing that things have already gotten quiet, but let's just still hope there are no crickets. It's still gotten quiet. I mean, as far though there are still no questions. And I mean, it's just so hard. Knowing that things have already gotten harder enough, I was really hoping someone would show up, but eventually things would have gotten better. But crickets. How wonderful. Like I said, more crickets every day. My goodness gracious. How much more crickets do I have to get? It's still quiet in here by myself. But Lord only knows when things will change, but I know that things will change for the better. But I just feel like I feel left out sometimes, but not really. Oh boy. I thought this Q&A would go pretty well, but my guess is getting real hard today. And yes, for sure, things have really gotten harder for sure. Oh, for crying out loud, it's just so hard being by yourself in the middle of a Q&A, paying homage to 9/11. This is my tribute because basically this is 9/11 weekend. But what I am most excited for what my good friend Anna Game Girl 23, which is slash 2376 Productions, my good, also formerly known as Laurel the Cat, but actually Laurel, she's got planned for the official, sorry about that, for the official full-length film of the whole ordeal. But where it's Son Amy Werehog, but I'm really excited for it, knowing it's coming on Halloween. But speaking of which, things have already changed here around a bit, knowing my grandma, on the other hand, has me moving to a new house. Well, not me, but she wants to move to a new house. But eventually, things will change. But what I do know is that, well, I have not played Sonic Colors Ultimate yet, but it's still on my list. I have got to get it, Jonathan. Thank you for that. But anyway, Sonic Colors Ultimate. But if anyone still has any questions for me, just feel free to leave me a question on the chat, and I'll be sure to get to your questions. Now then, basically, speaking of that, Sonic Colors Ultimate, I am really happy for that game because I'm still trying to get it for my Xbox One, but eventually I'll get it, but it's going to take time. But on the other hand, has anyone have any questions for me? Still no questions yet, but more crickets. Oh boy. How wonderful. But basically I have another thing planned out for the channel this year, but I plan to be doing a lot planned out, but eventually it's going to take time. But you guys will see eventually, but oh boy. More and more crickets. I just feel like I just lost the audience. Oh boy. My goodness. I don't even know what's next. The one thing I love more than anything, you guys, I just love answering you guys' questions because it's something I love doing because I just love to hear you guys leave a question because if you guys got any questions for me, like I said, leave it in the chat and I'll be more than glad to answer your guys' questions. Oh boy. Feels a little lonely in here, but not really. But basically, there's that knowing that only knows what could happen next, but man, I mean, it's just so hard at times. And the crickets are back. Oh boy. How many more crickets do I have to get? Oh gosh. Oh boy. I mean, I have been getting a lot more crickets already on the stream, but basically, if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave me a question on the chat and I'll be sure to answer them because I just love to hear you guys' questions because that's what makes the stream a lot more fun. But basically, wait a minute. You know, Something's missing to make this chat a little interesting, but boy. Oh well. I'm just stunned. I mean, we're still trying to pay tribute to 9/11, but still, there's still no questions going on in the chat. But oh boy. But hey, what can I do? What can I do? Oh man, I feel like the Godfather. My goodness, after something like that, he was just like, "You gonna go man? What's the matter with you?" Yeah, like that, and then he just did the whole ordeal. But I just don't want to do that. But anyways, sooner or later we might have a special guest on the chat. But if you guys think I should do a special guest on the chat, like either tomorrow or if you guys want to see us, go ahead and see a special guest. Feel free to let me know on the chat, and I'll be more than glad to make that official. But it has been pretty hard at times. To try to make things interesting, but I'm very thankful that you guys have been there and had my back no matter what. And without you guys, there would have been 412 films. I mean, there wouldn't be no 412 films or anything in particular. I just want to thank you guys so much for the support, knowing that my YouTube channel has reached up to around 444 subscribers, which I thought I'd never get to, but I just want to thank you guys so much for that. Well, hello, Goofy. Never thought we'd see you on the chat. Oh, boy. Looks like Goofy joined the chat. Yeah, but anyways, though, for 412 films, we've been trying to come up with ideas as of late, but eventually you guys are going to love to see what happens on the channel, but I can't leave out any spoilers of what's going to happen. And luckily, if you guys saw the latest intro back in the summer, sorry about that, which was the fan-made series I had in mind, The Adventures of Mysterion, which were basically the idea I wanted to do, because Mysterion has already got pretty cool at times after looking back. And I remembered seeing Mysterion at some point beating a bully in the schoolyard, but eventually saving a kid during the time. But for what I do know is that there has been so much going on at the time. And eventually the Adventures of Mysterion will happen. I just need... GGP! What's up, man? Glad you can make it. And though, folks, GGP has just joined us. Welcome, man. And we already know that coming up on December 24th is Star Wars Redeem of the Force, and I can't wait for that, man. And, of course, we already know that anytime, man, anytime. And, of course, on the other hand, though, 412 Films, on the other hand, though, has a lot of plans for the channel, but We don't even know what we're gonna do, but eventually we'll find out. But I can't spoil anything. But you guys will be surprised. But the Adventures of Mysterion will be occurring either this year or somewhere around somewhere in October, but or maybe somewhere in November. But you guys will see it in November because the Adventures of Mysterion is something I've been planning to do for quite some time. Because I mean, it's just so many great times at least. And anyways, I got that out of the way. But does anyone have any questions for me? And the crickets are back for the third time. A lot of silence. But Lord only knows what could happen, knowing this is a Q&A after all. And expect the unexpected. But for what I do know, okay. Can everyone that GWE wants a Brock Lesnar debut for the first time ever? If that were to happen, I mean, Cool 412 and Brock Lesnar have a huge history at TNW. But I think that would be awesome. I think that would be awesome, GGP, because that's a very good question. If that were to happen, who knows? I mean, Cool 412 and Brock Lesnar may have an encounter. That's their last encounter years ago in 2019. Yeah, Cool 412 beat him at Fred of October in Hershey, Pennsylvania. On the other hand, though, is there any more questions from anybody that I would love to answer from? Oh boy. Oh boy. Hope the crickets don't come back. Huh? Hey, Shadow Fiend just joined us. The multiple-time TNW World Heavyweight Champion. But anyways, on the other hand, though, speaking of Brock Lesnar, I did see him at SummerSlam. I was irate. I was not happy with him showing up in Vegas, in my home state. But that led to where I had my friend Noah holding me back. And yeah, Corey, it has actually, and yeah, Shadow Fiend, it has been a while since the last time I did do a live stream. But does anyone have any questions for me? I'd be more than glad to answer anyone's questions. Hey, don't remind me, man. For a reason why you like Brock Lesnar or you don't like seeing him for debut. Now, TGP, it's not that. I mean, I was really irate for what he did to The Undertaker years ago in 2014. And I'll have Corey know, actually Shadow Fiend know, I've only saw Brock Lesnar twice in a row, not in a match. But the first time I saw him, I believe, was at SmackDown here in Vegas in the Golden Knights Arena. And the second time I now saw him this year was at the Raiders Stadium, returning to the arena. It's just that I really got upset with Lesnar way back in 2014 for what he did to The Undertaker. But after what I heard backstage, that The Undertaker went to the hospital after he got beat by Lesnar. But the debut of Brock Lesnar in GWE, what do you guys think? Would you like to see Brock Lesnar make his debut in GWE? Feel free to let me and my good friend GHP know on the chat. And don't remind me another thing, Shadow Fiend. You did had seen Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series years ago during his match with the Mysterios. Last I checked. If Brock Lesnar did GTP, expect the unexpected with Cool 412. Yeah, you did. So now you gotta rub it in my face. But anyways, does anyone have any questions for me? I'll be more than glad to answer more questions because this is a Q&A after all. Oh boy, oh boy. And the crickets are back again. That's like 4 times now. It's like the 4th time today. More crickets. Um. Oh God. Shadow Fiend. Don't remind me. How does it feel about GGP and Ayani? Best rivalry ever yet? Well, that's a good question there, GGP. I gotta say though, your rivalry with Ayani is, I believe, the best one yet. But something tells me though that there's going to be another rivalry happening in GWE if GGP is all right with me talking about it, because a certain individual from my past showed up at TNW One Night Stand. Shadow Fiend, you dang darn son of a gun. Oh, man. I mean, I just want to say, though, happy birthday, Alyssa. Yeah, Alyssa, on the other hand, though, is helping out with TNW in the real world because, well, it's going great at least. Just don't remind me, Shadow Fiend. Oh. But anyways, though, knowing the Q&A has already gotten amazing thus far, it's already gotten pretty good. Oh yeah, that is true, GHP. Well, that's a very good question. I mean, not just a future Hall of Famer in GWE, but also in TNW, because that might happen. But anyways, GHP on the other hand, though, we already know that, knowing that this is Q&A, there was one person I got to talk about on this chat that I saw at TNW One Night Stand. That I don't leave any spoilers out from what matches will happen on GWE, but there's someone that might heat up the rivalry in GWE. As what happened was, I mean, right as before the show went off the air, Joe Wolf showed up with Catalina on the TNW One Night Stand backstage area. Knowing the man was never a part of TNW, but more disrespectful, thanks to his friend Catalina. I don't even know why she was there to begin with, but if you guys want to know more, about this rivalry between me and Joe Wolf, just feel free to leave me a question, and I'll be sure to get to it on how I got started. But I would love to answer you guys' questions because this is a Q&A after all. And on the other hand, though, for Shadow Fiend's case, expect the unexpected. Yeah, that is true, GGP. Reverend Skywalker fights in several Star Wars chapter movie series, but I cannot wait for Star Wars Redeem of the Force coming in December 24th on Christmas. Because something tells me it's going to be a wild ride. But before I forget anything, I already know that thus far, though, with Star Wars Redeem of the Force coming out on December 24th, it's going to take a while till it's in productions. But anyways, speaking of productions, who knows what could happen? Maybe Gordy Gameplay, maybe Gordy Productions, and of course, 412 Films might do a film together right here on the channel. But we might see on what could happen. And I don't want to spoil anything because it's going to be a surprise. And Shadow Fiend, don't remind me otherwise. This man. And besides, speaking of Shadow Fiend, if anybody wants to see Shadow Fiend in a GWE ring, knowing he's won the TNW World Heavyweight title on numerous occasions, give Shadow Fiend one big heck yeah. And oh boy, more crickets. How wonderful. More and more crickets. How many more are there? Huh? Well, that's a very good question, GHP. Knowing that the Heart Foundation and knowing Ash and Pan, husband and wife, were trying to go at it with you for quite some time, along with the Hart family. But Lord knows how that rivalry is going to end, knowing you still got to deal with Ayani. And, of course, NMP Nightbeat Heart still has to deal with Pan. But we got to end it someplace as far as I know. But as far as we know, that this rivalry between NMP and Pan are far from over. And, great. More crickets. That's like 5 in a row. How many more crickets do I have to get? Huh? Speaking of TNW, Shadow Fiend. Well, luckily you're going to return to the ring again, Shadow Fiend. Come on, man. You'll get there. Just be patient, man. It'll happen. And oh boy. I don't even know what's next because thus far I only got like crickets, like a couple of crickets 5 times in a row. And yet there hasn't been any questions yet. But expect the unexpected. And speaking of Shadow Fiend already, I think he left me a voice message on Messenger. But who knows what could happen. Oh yeah, speaking of which, tomorrow is the CAC, the Cauliflower Alley Club. Huh? GGP, if that were to happen, if Green Goblin was in GWE as Spider-Man's advisor, I think that would be awesome to do. But if you guys want to see it, give me and GGP one big heck yeah. Oh boy. Let's hear what Shadow Fiend had to say.
Alicia Cole, not Alyssa.
Alicia. Alicia. I thought it said Alyssa because it's got the A and there's no H. I may have messed up on the name Shadow Fiend, but don't remind me. Ugh. Oh boy. But anyways, well, it's officialized that Green Goblin will eventually make his GWE debut as Spider-Man's advisor, but we still need to make that officialized because we already know that coming up on the next GWE event would be the official GWE pay-per-view event that we had planned, which is a superhero showdown with the Avengers versus the Justice League inside the lethal lockdown, unlike last year when I was inside. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I came crashing down on everybody in sight, right off the top of the cage. For me, it felt like bowling. Strike. Now then, does anyone have any questions? And again, the crickets. When is the first? Well, GGP, that's a very good question. That rivalry between you and Ayani, ever since Gma Mania 2, where she quit for from the beginning, but when she came back, she eventually made it what it was by helping out with the GWE women's division, making it what it is today, by becoming the first GWE Intercontinental Champion, even to going on to winning the first ever GWE Women's Tag Team Championships with her half sister Kazumi, which is also this is 412. But basically, for what I do know, is that for GWE thus far, expect the unexpected. And I know probably some people are asking us, when is the next GWE Raw after when TNW One Night Stand got all set and done? Well, basically that next episode will happen soon as possible, but not to worry, you guys. Eventually, it will happen. But I forgot to mention, though, that the CAC, the Cauliflower Alley Club, is coming back to Vegas. First thing tomorrow, including Monday. But yet, though, I'm going to be at the CAC tomorrow because something tells me it is going to be amazing. The Cauliflower Alley Club, from the legends from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, including today. Oh, don't remind me about that one, GGP. I've seen that trailer, and the original Doc Ock is coming back. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, I'm going to admit this at first. I mean, back when I was a kid, including the sequel involving Doc Ock, And I even saw the third one. Duh! Don't do that, man. That kind of scared me a bit. But basically, though, yeah, I'm going to have to be the first to admit this because I've seen the original Spider Man movies that came out. But when the remake came out, which was like a reboot, I didn't know what to expect. But at first, it got pretty good in the process. But when it came down to the Spider Man suit, I didn't know that was going to be part of the film. But for what I do know is that, speaking of Halloween, I might have something planned out this year, but I don't know what it is until I get it officialized. But in the meantime, though, it's going to take time. But in the meantime, though, speaking of which, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're down to 2 more questions. Because if anyone has any more questions for me, now's the time. Well, Robert uh, Pattinson being cast as the new Batman in 2019. Sorry if I mispronounced his last name there, GHP. But after seeing the news that he was getting the part as Batman in 2019, but I gotta say though, this could be an amazing role for him. But for what I do know, I'm gonna be the first to admit this as a kid. I've seen the first Batman movie played by Michael Keaton, the sequel, which was Batman Returns, and I saw Batman Forever, which he wasn't in. And of course, I saw Batman and Robin, which came out my birth year. But I was so stunned at how they messed up on the film. Like, really? A Bat credit card? No wonder why the Nostalgia Critic came out at Jimmy Monsoon to begin with. I just can't believe that an actual Bat credit card was seen during the time, but in the film. But I was like, are you kidding me? Why a Bat credit card? That was ridiculous. But I just can't believe my eyes because when it came down to it, I mean, I was so disappointed. I mean, they could have just done better at least, or just make it more interesting next time. But hey, what can you do? It happened. What happened, happened. Now then, on the other hand, I did see the first Batman Begins film, which was a reboot of the series. I mean, more likely the franchise. And I was amazed to see Scarecrow show up, of all films. But disappointing factor, I'm going to be the first to admit this, knowing Jack Nicholson played the Joker in the Tim Burton version of Batman, which was where the Joker, I believe, really nailed the mark. But in my honest opinion, when it came down after seeing Batman Begins to The Dark Knight, when I saw the Joker, boy, he was nuts. Tell me about it. The fans were outrageous during that time, GSP. I mean, I have to agree with you there. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. The Daredevil character, I believe, the actor who played Daredevil really nailed the mark, but when it came down to the Daredevil movie, I was going to try to finish up on the whole Batman movies I saw. I did see The Dark Knight, and of course, Batman Returns, which was The Dark Knight Returns. When Bane showed up, here's a guy who looked like a gentleman instead of a villain. But his super strength really did show up. But when Catwoman came to the mix, oh boy, I think I was gonna faint. But after all that, it was really amazing seeing Batman in a whole new look. But more importantly, how it turned out. But I'm gonna be the other hand to first to admit the other one, the Ben Affleck, the Daredevil as Batman. I was like, I have to agree with you. The fans were outrageous during that time there at GGP, and by God, it was brutal. And I'm going to be the first to admit this. I've seen the first Daredevil movie, but it never made sense. I mean, it was pretty good at first, but they never got anything right on the costume. But we had the 2 Ds on the chest, but expect the unexpected. But in the end, though, we did see Bullseye. But when it came down to the Daredevil series on Netflix, I saw, boy, was I happy to see all that. It really made sense on Daredevil showing up without his costume, like not yet. But when the suit was being modified in the actual way it was meant to be. Sorry, I'll get back up my chair. But basically, though, sorry about that. Basically, though, when it came down to it, I mean, literally came down to it, they really told the story on Daredevil. And the whole story on Matt Murdock at the same time was amazing. But when it came down to the ending of the 3rd season, I didn't recognize one of the other characters playing the part until I realized he never missed his target, and I realized it was Bullseye until I saw the ending of the 3rd and final season when one of his eyes showed the bullseye marks in his eyes. I was like, oh my God, it's Bullseye. But in the end, though, I gotta admit, though, it was outrageous. We're outraged about the whole ordeal because if I were the fans, I mean, I would have to admit that for the newer Batman these days, it's just amazing that we're getting like so many new developments, so little times. But when it came down to other things like the Suicide Squad, to the Justice League, but out of the ordinary, it's just amazing that what we're getting these days. But anyways, though, we are down to one more question. Because if you guys got one more question for me, feel free to go ahead and leave it. Because so far, though, this tribute to 9/11 has already gotten pretty good. And I'm very glad I'm getting a chance to answer you guys' questions because I know it's been a while since I've done Q&A. So does anyone have one more question before we end this live stream? Paying tribute to everyone on 9/11, which is still the 9/11 weekend, and our tribute will begin, and our final tribute will begin tomorrow on Sunday. It makes sense. Well, yeah, Georgie. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that first name and the last name there, JP. But yeah, I have to agree with you there, man. I mean, for real, with him playing Batman, that would be awesome enough. But like I said, though, I've seen so much Batman films in my time, and I've already seen, like, pretty much all the Spider-Man movies. But Not the newer ones yet. But I did see Captain America Civil War, which I think was amazing enough. But like I said, though, you guys, we're down to one more question. If you guys got one more question for me, feel free to leave it on the chat, and I'll be sure to answer it. Oh, boy. More crickets. Huh? Can you do... Hey, you're talking to the guy who's been voicing Sonic for quite some time now. Uh-oh. The nostalgia critic is here. I mean, Jonathan, you're talking to the guy who's been voicing Sonic for quite some time now, since 2 years ago. Make that since my plush films, but if you got any Sonic quotes for me, I'll be more than glad to, but this one is one of my favorites. Sonic's the name and speed's my game. And basically, though, I have also been doing a lot, but eventually expect the unexpected. And, uh-oh, the nostalgia critic showed up. Let's just hope he don't ask too much about the back credit card. Because I don't have it on me. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this live stream. I want to thank you all so much for coming. And the day we can never forget, part 1 has ended. Part 2 will be first thing tomorrow. I'll be at the CAC tomorrow, which is the Cauliflower Alley Club. I want to thank you all so much for coming, because the tribute to 9/11 weekend is still going on, and first thing tomorrow, part 2 will happen around at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I really hope you guys will show up for it, because I want to thank you all so much for coming here. So be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Be sure to comment, share, subscribe for more. And if you guys want a t-shirt, anytime there at GHP, and if you guys want a t-shirt of the 412 and Sonic t-shirt, or some cool 412 t-shirts, or anything like from TNW, ACW, and the HWF, check out Store Frontier. Will be popped up in the link in the description below. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream, as we have paid tribute of the day we can never forget of 9/11. And I really hope that sooner or later this will come to an end. But anyway, stay safe out there, you guys. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And be sure to tell my good friend GGP, and of course, Noah Anderson, Big Boy Lance Smith, and my good friends, Gene Diddy 76, which is Gene, McInerney 76, which is David, and a Game Girl 23, which is slash 2376 Productions, which is Laurel. And of course, my good friends, Karen Angel 46, which is Karen, and Rebelzilla 2020, which is Garrett. And of course, Ayuka and Tails 19, which is my good friend Ayuka. And everyone else, I said, actually, and Sonic 28955, which is my good friend Tony. I said, what's up?